The middle of the 19th century was a transitional time for many areas in Philadelphia, but Elfreth's Alley particularly saw a shift in residents. In the beginning of the century, artisans, gentlemen, and gentlewomen filled the homes on the alley. Landowners laid claim to 2 to 3 lots and slowly invested in their acreage. Now, almost every available lot was built upon and rented to tenants. Widows and descendants were all that remained of the early multi-lot owners. Those with the means to invest in the alley were leaving for areas outside of the city. As we approached the middle of the 1800s, some artisans still lived on the alley and their businesses were booming. The Industrial Revolution had not yet taken a full grip on Philadelphia, and craftspeople created, sold, and lived in Elfreth's Alley homes. Owner-occupied homes, like Louis Kolb at what is now House 126, was making investments in his property by expanding and improving his home. But he also ran a business from it, making and selling shoes to Philadelphians. The middle of the 19th century showed the demographics in the alley to be less financially influential than those 50 years earlier, but certainly more financially secure than those over the next 50 years. And this leads me to wonder, how did Elfreth's Alley, then Cherry Street, residents celebrate the December holidays? Would they still be celebrating the traditions from their country of origin? Would they have had the funds to embrace the latest styles? Or would they have adopted a melting pot of holiday traditions, making cookies, candles in windows, smoking bishop, or perhaps holiday mummery? Current newspapers of the time certainly demonstrate that gift-giving was common, as well as holiday confections and fruitcake. In fact, mammoth fruitcake was sold at Thomas Slater's confectionery. But did alley residents have Christmas trees? Were they common anywhere, much less in the most densely populated part of the city? Let's look at what we can find. Philadelphia and southeastern Pennsylvania owes many of its traditions to the German people that settled here. Christmas cookies, gingerbread houses, handcrafted toys, and of course, the Christmas tree. On a national level, the tradition of having and decorating a Christmas tree can be credited to Sarah J. Hale, editor of Godey's Ladies' Book, also known as Godey's Magazine. It was founded in 1830 and published right here in Philadelphia. In 1850, Hale included an adapted and Americanized version of an engraving showing England's Queen Victoria and Prince Albert with their family celebrating the German tradition of gathering around the Christmas tree. But would the working-class residents of Elfreth's Alley and throughout Philadelphia have really read a copy of Godey's Ladies' Book? Could they have afforded or prioritized that expense? At 25 cents a copy, or $3 to $4 a year? It's unlikely. But they probably didn't have to rely on Godey's to learn about these traditions. Christmas trees were far from unheard of here in Philadelphia. Due to our strong German roots, Christmas trees made many appearances in the decades leading up to their Godey's premiere, many in a much more accessible format, the local newspaper. In 1836, the Public Ledger, costing 1 cent per issue, prints a translation of a beautiful poem titled in English as The Forlorn Child's Christmas Eve. It is preceded by an explanation of a Christmas tree.
On Christmas Eve it is customary, in many parts of Germany, to adorn the branch of a pine tree with lighted tapers and various gifts, and to surround it with tables on which presents for the different members of the family are arranged. In passing through the streets, it often happens that several scenes of this kind are seen at once through the windows.
On Christmas Eve in 1844, the Public Ledger is filled with suggestions and sales on Christmas presents, including a bookstore on Callow Hill Street selling copies of Kris Kringle's Christmas Tree, of course offered on the most reasonable terms. This well-illustrated book, full of fables and verse, was originally published right here in Philadelphia in 1845 by E. Ferret and Company. An 1847 copy credits Grigg and Elliot as the publisher and expands the title to be Kris Kringle's Christmas Tree, a holiday present for boys and girls. Using the newly fashionable trend of Christmas trees laden with gifts, the opening page of this book, unapologetically titled Advertisement, explains that these new trees are replacing stockings by the chimney, and it was indeed Santa Claus himself who organized this literary collection for distribution by all fashionable parents, guardians, aunts, and uncles. Soon, Christmas trees were becoming more commonplace. In Philadelphia, a newspaper commented on how full the markets were of shoppers buying Christmas trees. By the 1860s, we have good reason to believe that Christmas trees were so common that residents on the alley may have even decorated one for their holiday celebrations. In 1866, the Pittsburgh Gazette commented,
"It is not alone the wealthy who enjoy the pleasures under the family root tree of this happy season. We have noticed within the past few days, in our markets, good women, evidently in the most humble station of life, women who toil hard and long to keep the wolf from the door, carrying with them homewards the traditional Christmas tree."
As the shift from artisans practicing their craft in Elfreth's Alley homes moved to factory workers in need of nearby lodging, the demographic of the street changed. Crockery packers and button cutters replaced silversmiths and carpenters. Multiple families living at one address became more common. The Industrial Revolution was upon us, and the city of Philadelphia was changing. But with this change, commercial holiday celebrations became more accessible, and traditions were crossing cultures. Evergreen trees decorated for Christmas likely became part of the holiday traditions in Elfreth's Alley homes, a custom that has carried on for generations.